I always believed that love was a bond between two people, a sacred commitment that only the two of us could truly understand. I thought that once you found the right person, you'd hold on tight and never let go, no matter what life threw your way. It seemed simple to me. Love was about loyalty, partnership, and the promise that we would walk through life together, side by side, just the two of us against the world. When I met Megan, it felt like I had found exactly that. From our very first conversation, I was captivated by her warmth and humor. She was everything I had dreamed of in a woman: kind, funny, caring, and deeply loyal. Every moment we spent together felt like magic. I imagined us building a life together, making decisions together, and finding happiness until the end of our days. In my mind, we were an unbreakable team, navigating the ups and downs of life hand in hand. It was almost as if fate had brought us together, weaving our lives into a beautiful tapestry of shared dreams and hopes. But beneath this surface of blissful certainty, I carried a fear, one I never wanted to acknowledge. The thought of someone else, anyone, interfering with what we had terrified me. I couldn't shake the notion that family dynamics could creep into our lives and disrupt the bond we were building. I pushed that fear aside, convincing myself that our love was stronger than anything that might come between us. After all, isn't that how love is supposed to work? Just two people, standing together against the world, facing whatever challenges came our way. At that time, I didn't realize how naive I was being. I didn't understand that love isn't just about the connection between two people. It can also be influenced by the world around them. And as I would soon discover, sometimes it feels like the whole world is ready to invade your relationship, testing the very foundation you thought was unshakable. Reflecting on the early days of my relationship with Megan fills me with warmth. It was like stepping into a beautiful dream. We met at a coffee shop downtown, a quaint little place that had a charming vibe. I remember walking in that day, a little weary from the daily grind, when my eyes landed on her. She was sitting at a table by the window, her laughter ringing out like music, drawing me in effortlessly. I felt an instant connection, a spark that ignited something deep within me. We began talking, and it felt as if we had known each other for years. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, ranging from our favorite books to our dreams for the future. With each shared laugh and moment of vulnerability, I felt a sense of belonging I had never experienced before. I found myself looking forward to our conversations, eager to learn more about the woman who had so effortlessly captured my heart. As we spent more time together, everything seemed perfect. We shared countless dates, exploring the city, watching movies, and talking late into the night about our hopes and fears. I felt as though I was walking on air, as if nothing could bring me down. Megan made me feel seen, valued, and loved in a way that I had longed for. Every moment spent together reinforced my belief that I had found my soulmate. In those early days, it seemed we were completely in sync. We dreamed about our future together, planning trips and discussing what our lives would look like years down the line. I imagined us owning a cozy home filled with laughter, where we would build a family and create memories. The thought of spending my life with her felt exhilarating, a path filled with endless possibilities. But in the midst of this blissful beginning, I started to notice the subtle signs that would later shake the very foundation of our relationship. It began with small things, a casual comment here, a suggestion there, always hinting at the involvement of her family. I shrugged it off, believing that as long as we loved each other, nothing could come between us. Little did I know that these small intrusions would grow into something far more significant, setting the stage for the challenges that lay ahead. As our relationship blossomed, I couldn't help but notice the first signs of interference from Megan's family. At first, it was subtle, almost imperceptible. It started with innocent questions from Megan about our plans for the future, nothing out of the ordinary. But soon, it became clear that her parents' opinions held a weight that I hadn't anticipated. I would hear her mention their thoughts on our relationship more frequently, and each time a nagging feeling began to settle in the pit of my stomach. I remember one evening, we were sitting together on the couch, enjoying a quiet night in. Megan brought up a conversation she had with her mother about our plans to take a trip together. "Mom thinks it's too soon for us to travel," she said, a hint of uncertainty in her voice. At first, I dismissed it as a harmless comment. After all, families often have opinions, right? But as I listened to her recount the discussion, I felt an uncomfortable sense of unease creeping in. It was a simple suggestion, yet it lingered in my mind, making me question our autonomy as a couple. Over time, these subtle influences grew into a more palpable tension. Every time we made a decision, I noticed Megan pausing to consider her family's perspective. It was as if their voices had seeped into our sanctuary, casting shadows over our shared dreams. I wanted to support her, to be understanding of her family, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were beginning to take precedence over our relationship. There were moments when I would suggest something, whether it was a weekend getaway or a simple dinner plan, and Megan would hesitate, her mind seemingly elsewhere. She would often say, "Let me run it by my parents first." And in those moments, I felt like a secondary character in our own story. It was as if I was competing not only for her attention, but for our shared vision of what our future could look like. In retrospect, I realize now that these red flags should have raised alarms in my mind. But love often clouds judgment. I told myself that family was important, that I should respect their input, even if it made me uncomfortable. Little did I know, these early signs were just the beginning of a much larger conflict that would challenge the very core of our relationship. As time went on, the underlying tension in our relationship grew. It became increasingly clear that I was feeling outnumbered, and the weight of that realization hung heavily on my shoulders. I had always prided myself on being the supportive partner, the one who encouraged Megan to stay close to her family. I thought it was normal to consult family on important decisions. After all, they wanted what was best for her. But as her family's influence began to overshadow our relationship, I found myself grappling with fears I had long suppressed. I remember one particularly trying evening when Megan came home after a visit with her parents. She looked conflicted, her brow furrowed as she sat down beside me. I could sense something was off, and as she opened up about her parents' opinions on our future, I felt a wave of frustration wash over me. They had suggested that we postpone our plans for a trip, arguing that we were still too young and needed to focus on more important things, like building our careers. As she relayed their words, I felt like I was losing her piece by piece, and the battle for her heart was becoming more evident. With every passing conversation, I realized my voice was being drowned out by the chorus of her family's expectations. I found myself questioning my worth. Was I not enough for her? Did I not meet the standards they had set? Each time Megan would refer to her family's opinions, it felt like a direct challenge to our relationship. I struggled to confront her about it, torn between my love for her and my desire to be heard. One night, I finally mustered the courage to talk to her. I wanted to express my concerns and lay bare the insecurities that had been festering inside me, But when I tried to voice my feelings, it was as if the words got stuck in my throat. I felt vulnerable, afraid that bringing it up would push her away. Instead, I resorted to silence, trying to convince myself that I was overreacting. After all, love should be strong enough to withstand external pressures, right? As I wrestled with these thoughts, I began to realize how deeply the fear of losing Megan had taken root in my heart. I started to wonder if I was fighting a losing battle against an invisible force that I could never truly compete with. The ongoing struggle to maintain my place in her life left me feeling isolated and powerless. I wanted to be her priority, but it felt like I was fighting against a tide that was only growing stronger. The very essence of what I believed about love began to unravel, and with it, the foundations of our relationship started to tremble. In the days that followed my confrontation with Megan, a heavy weight settled over me. I had laid bare my fears, hoping for understanding and support, but the conversation had taken an unexpected turn. Instead of the reassurance I craved, I was met with defensiveness. Megan insisted that her family only wanted what was best for her and that I should be more accommodating. It felt like a knife twisting in my gut, deepening the wounds that had already begun to fester. As I processed her words, I could feel my self-esteem crumbling like a fragile house of cards. I had always believed in the strength of our love, but now I questioned my worth in her life. Was I not enough? Did I not measure up to the standards her family had set? I felt like a failure, not just as a partner, but as a man. The sense of inadequacy seeped into every aspect of my life, poisoning my thoughts and leaving me paralyzed by doubt. I spent countless nights lying awake, staring at the ceiling, grappling with the gnawing feelings of worthlessness. I remembered the dreams we had shared, the plans we made for a future filled with love and adventure. Yet now those dreams felt out of reach, clouded by the weight of my perceived shortcomings. Each time I tried to connect with Megan, I felt the tension between us thickening, as if an invisible wall had risen, separating us. My friends began to notice my change in demeanor. They reached out, expressing concern about my distant behavior. Yet, I found it increasingly difficult to open up about what I was going through. How could I explain that I felt like I was losing the love of my life to the influence of her family? It seemed trivial, almost childish, to admit that their opinions mattered so much to me. I felt trapped in a cycle of shame and isolation, unable to share my struggles with anyone, even those closest to me. One evening, while trying to distract myself from the turmoil inside, I met up with a friend who could sense my unease. As we talked, he asked, "What's really going on with you, man?" I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. Finally, in a moment of vulnerability, I let it all spill out. I told him about my fears, the pressure I felt from Megan's family, and the impact it was having on my self-esteem. As I spoke, I felt a flicker of hope, a reminder that I didn't have to navigate this battle alone. But even with this support, the scars of that conversation with Megan lingered. I often found myself doubting my abilities, feeling as if I was not only fighting for her love, but also grappling with the remnants of a wounded ego. It was a painful journey, one that left me questioning everything I believed about love, worth, and the strength of our relationship. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, the tension between Megan and me grew thicker, wrapping around us like a suffocating shroud. I felt as if I was living in a constant state of emotional turmoil, where love and resentment collided. I wanted nothing more than to fight for our relationship, but the battle seemed increasingly futile. The love we had once nurtured now felt overshadowed by her family's expectations, leaving me feeling more like a stranger in my own life. One evening, as I sat alone in my favorite armchair, I reflected on the last few months. The laughter that had once filled our home had been replaced by silence. I couldn't remember the last time we had a light-hearted conversation without a hint of tension or disagreement. I felt a pang of sadness wash over me, realizing that the love we had was slipping away, and I was powerless to stop it. In that moment of despair, I was forced to confront a harsh truth. I was losing Megan to a force I couldn't control. The breaking point came on a night that would forever be etched in my memory. Megan came home after another family dinner, and the air felt heavy with unspoken words. I braced myself for the usual conversation about her parents' latest opinions on our relationship. But this time, it was different. As she began to recount her evening, I could see the conflict in her eyes, torn between her love for me and the loyalty she felt toward her family. In a moment of raw honesty, I asked, "Megan, where do I fit in your life? Am I just an option until your parents find someone they approve of?" The question hung in the air like a thunderclap, and I immediately regretted my tone. But I was desperate to understand. I needed to know if I was still her priority. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears, and whispered, "I don't know. I wish things were different, but my family means everything to me." In that instant, I felt the walls closing in around me. It was as if the world around us had disappeared, and all that remained was the stark reality of our situation. I could see it clearly now. No matter how deeply I loved her, I would always be competing for a place in her heart. That night marked a turning point. I went to bed feeling utterly broken, my heart heavy with the weight of the realization that I could no longer fight for a love that was slipping through my fingers. The dream of our future together began to feel like a mirage, and I knew that I had to make a choice. I was torn between love and self-preservation, and the pain of that choice was almost unbearable. After countless sleepless nights, I finally made the hardest decision of my life. I had to walk away. I knew that staying would only lead to more heartache, more resentment, and a loss of myself. I loved Megan deeply, but I realized that love shouldn't feel like a competition. It should be a safe haven, a place where both partners feel valued and prioritized. As I sat in the dark of my room, contemplating my next steps, I felt a sense of clarity amidst the heartbreak. It was time to let go, even if it meant losing the person I had dreamed of spending my life with. After making the heart-wrenching decision to leave Megan, I felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness wash over me. It was as if I had ripped a part of myself away, leaving a gaping hole that echoed with the memories of our love. I knew I needed to lean on my friends, but the thought of sharing my pain felt daunting. Would they understand? Would they judge me for walking away from a relationship I had once cherished so deeply? In the days that followed, I forced myself to reach out. My best friend Jake was the first person I turned to. I could see the concern etched on his face as I tried to put my feelings into words. I stumbled through the details of my relationship with Megan, the love I had for her, and the pain of feeling overshadowed by her family. As I spoke, I felt a mix of relief and vulnerability. Jake listened intently, nodding with understanding, and as I poured out my heart, I could feel the weight slowly beginning to lift. He shared his own experiences of navigating difficult relationships and reminded me that I wasn't alone in this struggle. Sometimes love isn't enough, he said. "You deserve someone who prioritizes you, not someone who constantly looks over their shoulder at what others think." His words resonated deeply, and for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. It was comforting to know that my feelings were valid, that I wasn't simply being overly dramatic or selfish for wanting to feel valued in a relationship. Jake encouraged me to take time for myself, to focus on healing, and to surround myself with people who genuinely cared for me. In the following days, I found solace in my friends. We would meet for coffee, go hiking, or simply hang out at home, sharing laughs and stories. Their support became my lifeline, a reminder that I was loved and valued outside of my relationship with Megan. I began to rediscover parts of myself that had been overshadowed by the emotional turmoil of the past months. It was liberating to engage in activities that brought me joy without the weight of her family's expectations hanging over my head. With each passing day, I felt a sense of empowerment growing within me. I started to realize that walking away from Megan didn't mean I had failed. It meant I had made a choice to prioritize my own well-being. I learned to embrace the uncertainty of the future, knowing that it was okay to seek happiness on my own terms. This newfound strength was a powerful reminder that my happiness mattered, and it ignited a determination within me to heal and rebuild. As I leaned on my friends, I also began to explore new interests and hobbies that had once taken a back seat during my relationship. I took up painting again, something I had loved in my youth, and found solace in the strokes of color on the canvas. Each brushstroke felt like a release, a way to express the emotions I had bottled up for too long. It was a beautiful journey of self-discovery, and it fueled my belief that I could create a fulfilling life for myself, even without Megan by my side. As the weeks turned into months, I began to embrace my newfound independence. Initially, the thought of being alone was daunting, but as I settled into this new chapter of my life, I discovered a strength within myself that I hadn't known existed. Each day felt like a small victory, a step away from the shadows of my past and toward a brighter future. I threw myself into my work and personal pursuits, channeling my energy into projects that excited me. I took on new responsibilities at my job, where my creativity was encouraged and appreciated. The feeling of accomplishment revitalized my spirit and reminded me that I was capable of achieving my goals, even without the support of a partner. Each task I completed felt like a brick being laid in the foundation of my newfound self, and I began to find joy in the simple act of living for myself. Social outings became a regular part of my life. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in a while, those who reminded me of who I was before my relationship with Megan had taken center stage. We would gather for game nights, explore new restaurants, and go on spontaneous adventures, laughing and reminiscing about the good old days. These moments of connection helped fill the void I had felt after the breakup, and with each shared experience, I began to feel more whole again. Through this journey, I also started to reflect on what I truly wanted in a relationship. I learned to recognize the signs of emotional independence and mutual respect that I had craved in my past relationship. The more I explored my own desires and needs, the clearer my vision became for the kind of partner I wanted to attract in the future. I realized that a healthy relationship is built on a foundation of equality, where both partners feel valued and heard. I also began to practice self-care, dedicating time to my physical and mental well-being. I started a morning routine that included exercise, meditation, and journaling. These practices helped me reconnect with myself, providing moments of clarity and reflection that were essential for my healing. I found strength in my solitude, learning to appreciate the quiet moments and the beauty of simply being present. As I embraced my independence, I discovered that it wasn't just about being alone. It was about choosing to be with myself first. I began to cultivate a deep sense of self-love and acceptance, realizing that my worth was not determined by someone else's approval. The journey was not without its challenges, of course. There were days when the memories of Megan would resurface, and I would find myself longing for what we had shared. But I learned to sit with those feelings, acknowledging them without allowing them to consume me. With time, I started to feel a renewed sense of hope for the future. I understood that healing was not a linear process, but each step I took brought me closer to the person I was meant to be. I became my own advocate, recognizing that I had the power to shape my life according to my values and desires. Embracing my independence was not just about moving on from Megan. It was about creating a life that was authentically mine. As I settled into my independence, I found myself at a crossroads, a place where I could either close off my heart or take the courageous step of opening it again. It was a daunting prospect, the fear of vulnerability still fresh in my mind. But deep down, I understood that true happiness could only come from embracing the possibility of love once more. One afternoon, while attending a local art exhibit, a passion I had rekindled during my journey of self-discovery, I met someone who would change everything. Her name was Lauren. From the moment we struck up a conversation, I felt an immediate connection. We talked about art, our shared love for exploring new places, and our experiences navigating life's ups and downs. There was a warmth in her smile and a genuine curiosity in her eyes that drew me in. For the first time in a long while, I felt the familiar flutter of excitement that comes with the possibility of new love. Yet, with that excitement came a wave of trepidation. I couldn't shake the fear of repeating past mistakes, of losing myself in another relationship, or allowing external influences to creep back in. I took my time getting to know Lauren, mindful of the lessons I had learned about the importance of healthy boundaries and mutual respect. As our friendship blossomed, I began to share pieces of my past, my struggles with Megan's family, and the impact it had on my self-esteem. To my surprise, Lauren listened with empathy and understanding. She didn't dismiss my feelings. Instead, she acknowledged the pain I had experienced and encouraged me to be open about what I wanted moving forward. It was refreshing to converse with someone who valued my perspective and encouraged me to express my needs without fear of judgment. With Lauren, I felt safe. We ventured into discussions about our values and what we sought in a relationship, ensuring we were both on the same page. I shared my desire for a partnership built on trust, where both partners supported each other without the shadow of external influences looming overhead. It was a liberating experience to articulate my needs so clearly, and with each conversation, I felt more confident in my ability to navigate this new territory. Slowly but surely, I began to let my guard down. We went on hikes, explored quaint coffee shops, and spent evenings laughing over board games. I found joy in the simplicity of our connection, and with each passing day, I felt the walls around my heart begin to crumble. Lauren's patience and genuine care made it easier for me to trust again. I realized that opening my heart didn't mean I was forgetting my past. It meant I was choosing to embrace a future filled with possibilities. One evening, as we stargazed at a local park, I felt a rush of emotion wash over me. It was a moment of clarity, a realization that I had not only opened my heart to Lauren, but also to the idea that I deserved happiness. I felt a sense of gratitude for the journey I had taken, the pain that had shaped me, and the strength I had discovered within myself. I leaned in and kissed her, a gentle affirmation that I was ready to embrace love again, not as a desperate need, but as a beautiful addition to my already fulfilled life. As I embarked on this new chapter with Lauren, I knew that the road ahead would have its challenges, but I also understood that I was no longer the same person I had been during my relationship with Megan. I had learned to prioritize myself, to set boundaries, and to cherish the beauty of love that respects individuality. With Lauren by my side, I felt a renewed sense of hope and excitement for what the future held. As the months rolled on, my relationship with Lauren deepened, blossoming into something truly beautiful. We navigated the complexities of our lives with mutual respect and understanding, forging a partnership that felt grounded and secure. I found joy in the little things, cooking dinner together, sharing our dreams for the future, and simply enjoying each other's company. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace enveloping me, a stark contrast to the chaos I had experienced with Megan. Reflecting on my journey, I realized how far I had come. The emotional turmoil that had once consumed me had transformed into a reservoir of strength and resilience. I learned that it was okay to prioritize my own needs, to walk away from relationships that didn't serve me, and to embrace the unknown with an open heart. My past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. One evening, as Lauren and I sat on the couch, cuddled up with a movie playing softly in the background, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. I turned to her, taking her hand in mine, and said, "Thank you for being patient with me. I know I've carried a lot of baggage from my past, but you've shown me what real love feels like." Her eyes sparkled with warmth, and she squeezed my hand, reassuring me that she was here for the long haul. In those quiet moments, I realized that love, at its core, is about acceptance and growth. With Lauren, I felt free to be my authentic self, and I was no longer burdened by the weight of others' opinions. We had created a space where both of us could thrive individually while nurturing our relationship, a balance I had yearned for. As we continued to build our lives together, I often reflected on the lessons learned from my relationship with Megan. I understood that love isn't just about romance, it's about partnership, support, and fostering a shared vision for the future. I learned to communicate openly, to voice my needs and desires without fear, and to listen deeply to the needs of my partner. Looking ahead, I could finally envision a future filled with love, laughter, and shared dreams. My heart, once heavy with the scars of betrayal, was now open to the possibilities of happiness. I could see us traveling together, building a home, and perhaps even starting a family. Dreams that felt within reach for the first time in years. As I embraced this new chapter of my life, I also acknowledged the importance of healing. I made it a priority to check in with myself regularly, ensuring that I was nurturing my emotional well-being and maintaining a sense of balance. I continued to surround myself with supportive friends, cherishing the relationships that had helped me through the darkest times. In the end, I found joy in the realization that love is a journey, not a destination. It's about growth, learning, and the courage to embrace change. With Lauren by my side, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and excitement for the future. I had discovered the beauty of self-love, and it opened the door to a relationship that was genuine, fulfilling, and full of promise. As I looked into Lauren's eyes, I felt a wave of contentment wash over me. I had finally arrived at a place where love thrived, where I could be vulnerable and strong at the same time. I knew I was ready to embrace this new beginning, filled with love and happiness, and I was grateful for the journey that had led me here.